Hey guys, Tyler here from the HireStreams Podcast. I'm your host today. I am super excited for our next guest, Nolan Wolgamott. He's an awesome guy who is in recruiting for Robert Half. So he knows quite a bit, tips and tricks, a lot about the industry, what it takes to get a job. I think this podcast was super interesting, really informative. He gave us a lot of good insights, things that I hadn't thought of before, things that were super unique. And so hopefully this is going to be very educational, very informative, and provide you guys with a lot of value. So without any other introduction, let me bring on our guest, Nolan Wolgamott.
Thank you for joining us today, Nolan. I'd love to just start off with, give us a little introduction about yourself, who you are, what you do, what you've been doing.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on this podcast, Tyler. It's cool to try and connect virtually with as many people as possible. I've been in the recruiting industry for about 4 years now. So that's kind of where my background in the whole industry comes from. I've been at a staffing agency called Robert Half in downtown Seattle for almost 2 years. I started off there as a technical recruiter and have made my way into a lead role. So it's been a good journey. I've learned a lot about technology. I never knew anything about technology before I started there. And that was one thing I told them when I was interviewing. I was like, I don't know anything about technology, and all I know is how to talk to people. So that was the biggest thing that I had to learn, and I have learned over the past 2 years now. It's just technology and how much it has changed the way that we do things. And you can see how relevant technology is in just the past 4 months with how quickly companies have had to transition to fully remote work and what that looks like, and some of the trends that are booming and some of the trends that are obviously decreasing during this time. So
Sure.
Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. Well, to touch on your experience and background, what got you interested in being a technical recruiter as opposed to just, more business or sales recruiting? Where was the initial attraction there that really got you into things?
Yeah, well, before I was at Robert Half, I was working at a company called F5, which is a more security focused IT company. So that got me a little bit introduced into some of the technology, and then I was on a contract there, and then I left for another contract at Nordstrom where I was on the coordinating side for really software development roles. And so that's where I kind of got my first taste of technology. And then just living in the Seattle area my whole life, it's been obviously part of my life being in technology. So when this opportunity came across my plate, I was just kind of looking for anything in recruiting, and technology just kind of popped up. And I wasn't really targeting it, but it just was a cool opportunity. And I mean, it's a very lucrative industry, so it's fun to see where all the money's going, and how much these people are making, and what that lifestyle is really like. It's a whole different world compared to salespeople who are natural conversationalists, and then you go and talk to software developers that are not very good at conversations, but they're wicked smart in software development and all that stuff. So my attraction really grew more as I learned more about it and talked to more developers and managers and things like that. So yeah,
that's awesome. So as a lead technical recruiter, who are the people that you target? Are you hiring software leads? Are you hiring just more general software engineers? What's your sort of sweet spot or speciality?
Yeah, I would say software developers are really our target candidate. But we do anything in the software development life cycle. So anything from a business analyst to a tester to a program manager, project manager, to even entry-level software developers or business analysts. We like to target the more senior level candidates because those are obviously more attractive to other companies in the area. But if we ever get that opportunity to work on the industry level roles, it's really fun because those people are a lot more, go-getter mentality. They're looking for their first opportunity. They're just so excited to get into technology. So those people are really fun to talk to. They don't quite obviously know as much as maybe a senior developer does, but they're super excited to kind of get into things. So I like to work with as many people as I can. I would say our main target though is those kind of senior level software engineers.
Got it. That makes good sense. And I assume you guys work with a lot of the big Fortune 1 in 500 companies in Seattle. Is that primarily the customers that you engage with?
Yeah, I mean, we've worked with, the whole gambit, anything from a small startup company to a large, top, 3 or 4 company in the area like a Microsoft or Amazon, Facebook.
Sure.
So yeah, our team has shifted obviously with COVID-19 impacting our team. We've had to reduce a little bit. So my role has shifted from, working on certain companies to now really any company that has an opening that one of our sales reps are working on. That's really what I'm touching on now.
Sure. So let's touch on that a little bit. How has the pandemic changed your guys' business? What did it look like before for people who don't really know how the recruiting process works or your industry very well? And then what does it look like today, as compared to just 6 months ago?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and it just depends really on the industry and specific role within the industry that you're in. Tech has not really seen much of a dip in unemployment or an increase, I would say. Um, so the market shifted really heavily before COVID. It was a very candidate-driven market in all industries really. There were so many jobs and very few candidates, so it was very competitive, and
Yeah.
candidates kind of had to, they kind of could pick, at any given time they had 4, 5, 6 different offers or final round interviews on their plate at any given
Wow.
time. It was very competitive. And now it's starting to shift more in technology. I think, obviously those industries like sales and, hospitality really hit bad hard, where it's now you got to be a very competitive candidate, and you have to really show what you've got in an interview, really beef up your resume, and really prepare hard for interviews. You couldn't before it seemed like you could just go in and wing it and you could get a job offer. Now it's every candidate is competing hard to get those jobs because there's so few available now.
Sure.
So it's been interesting. I would say technology again didn't see as much of a shift to that mentality. We kind of assumed as recruiters that it took that shift, so we changed a lot of our processes to get references completed as soon as we interviewed a candidate. Which usually was something that we did more along the process. Now it's like we need to get those done because we can use that prior reference from a manager as a marketing tool for that candidate to make them more of a showcase candidate, of a top tier candidate. Here's what his prior manager said before he was laid off. Just phenomenal candidate, excellent XYZ skills. So completing all those things early on, making sure candidates are sending super thorough thank you notes, doing a ton of research on the company. Again, it's just that candidates need to be more thorough on their time spent before an interview and preparing themselves as we're presenting them to clients. So those are some of the biggest shifts I would say that we've seen in the industry. There's obviously been others, but those are some of the biggest ones that we've had to make as a company with our candidates and clients.
Yeah, that's super insightful. So how has your guys' process changed? Obviously, you're in a face-to-face business. I'd imagine it's a lot of communication and getting to meet and know people. How have you guys been able to transition that into an online setting, but still kind of keep that standard of quality high? How have you guys been able to manage that throughout this change here?
Yeah, I mean, being in technology in downtown Seattle, I personally didn't actually do a whole lot of in-person stuff because a lot of the people that we worked with were already remote. So it wasn't much of a shift for them to, all of a sudden transition to this remote lifestyle. Obviously, some of our business, we did do some in person, but a majority of it, we already were doing that virtual stuff. So I would say we were kind of a little fortunate to be ahead of the curve there. But compared to some of my recent, positions that I've had before Robert Half, it is a shift, and people have to learn how to navigate that because it's different when you're going in person. You get to shake somebody's hand, you get to really see their body language rather than just like shoulders up. It's very different, right? I mean, I'm kind of you probably can't even see it, but I move my hands a lot when I'm talking. So this probably plays to my advantage. I'm not distracting people with my hands and everything. So but it's interesting. You have to really, show people your excitement with your face, and that was one thing that's hard just with a phone interview. You can't really see somebody. So you have to really work on enunciating, showing excitement in your tone, and have those fluctuations. So that's one thing I think that people haven't fully adapted to, or are starting to learn how to do. And one of the biggest changes in our processes is just making sure that we're getting on a video conference with our candidates, just to make sure we're face to face. Hey, are you dressed nicely? Are you cleaned up? Do you have a good background? Can they see? How's the lighting in your place? Just those little things that people don't necessarily think are important. That to me as a recruiter, it's common sense, but to candidates who are just especially if they're developers, I mean, that's not always super important to them. As long as they can write amazing code, that's a lot of times what people are looking for. But
sure.
In this day and age, I mean, communication is so big and culture is so hard to create virtually. So a lot of people have had to kind of change their processes a lot and just learn how to adapt to sort of that new normal.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that if you're a software engineer or just someone at large who's interested in trying to get hired during the pandemic, what are some of these skills that really need to be refined and honed in on so that you can come across as a top tier candidate in a virtual setting that you may not be able to do, or that you've lost as a result of the fact that we're not in person?
Yeah, I would say one of the big things is being proactive as a candidate and understanding what's needed in the process. Whenever I speak to a candidate who is, proactively sending me without having to ask, he's sending me his references, a full write-up, just kind of going above and beyond. Those are the candidates that I'm personally going to remember on a first name basis. Obviously I have a tracking sheet and formulas in my database where I can find all the candidates I've talked to, but if I'm going to remember a candidate, it's going to be the one that sent me his references right away, that asked, what else can I do to help you in presenting me to your manager and getting me in front of your clients. Those are the candidates that, if anyone's going to get a job soon, it's those ones. Those are the ones that are, again, proactive in getting things done, right? If there's documents that need to be signed, they're filling them out right away. They're on it, and I'm not, again, it's not a golden formula to get them a job, but it's much more likely that, hey, I'm going to remember you because you were forward thinking, you were nice and calm and confident on the phone and in the video. Like you were ready to go and you had everything prepared. So
sure.
I would say that's really one of the biggest things that people could try and adapt and learn more on just being, again, more proactive.
Good. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. So obviously we've got mass numbers of unemployment. Technology has been less affected. Some of the, the FANG companies or other high tech, businesses. But if you are at a point right now where you are out of work and you're looking to try to find a job, what are things that candidates should be doing in order to appear more, valuable to an employer, whether it's on a resume or sort of things at large? What are tips and tricks that you guys are recommending for candidates to be doing today so that they can really be ready and prepared for tomorrow when the interview comes?
Yeah. Networking is big. Studying on companies is huge. I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn from candidates that just say, I'm looking for a data analyst position, or I'm looking for an entry-level software engineer position. I go, like, great, but that's it, that's all you're going to give me. I mean, if someone reaches out to me and says, hey, I noticed you've been working at Robert Half for 2 years and you've obviously seen some success, or what are you seeing in the market, just more networking and being a little more casual rather than just kind of going in for that right hook, right? It's just kind of putting those little feelers out there, those touch points, and not being so aggressive. I mean, you got to be aggressive, patiently aggressive, right? You got to wait for your time to strike and hit that right hook. And just, again, being a little bit more studious of who you're reaching out to. If you're going in for an interview, maybe looking up the manager on LinkedIn and learning more about his or her experience in the past. And if you can, and it's appropriate, highlight some of those. I saw you worked at here and I know this person, and right, like building that network is so valuable. I mean, you heard it before, probably your network is directly related to your net worth. Right. So it's just so important to see who how do you know them? How do they know you? Like, where does this connection come in? That's going to help you a lot in your career, especially if you're entry level. It's so hard to find a job right now. I can't even tell you how many interns have had to unfortunately lose their internships because of the pandemic. So it's
Yeah,
just so important studying on the companies that you're targeting and trying to find some way to get into that process.
sure, sure. That's awesome. So if you're a candidate looking to get a job in today's market, what are the non-negotiable things you should have already had ready to go, dialed in, so that you're a player in the game when it comes time to getting hired?
Yeah, I mean, again, no golden formula, but just having a clean resume is big. Like something that's not multiple pages. I mean, 2-3 pages, I would say, is really kind of going to be your max if you have a lot of experience. If you only have 3, 4, 5 year experience, you probably shouldn't be going over 2 pages. Having your references ready, making sure your references are ready to be contacted. It's amazing how many people don't let their references know that, hey, you might get a call or an email from Nolan at Half discussing my background. So
Yeah,
it's just, people are just like, oh, and then they never get back to you and you can't help them move forward. So making sure your references are dialed in is going to be big. Making sure you just have all those documents ready. If you were to get a job offered, you have your passport, your I-9 documents that you need to get onboarded.
sure.
Can you work remotely? Do you have that kind of station set up at home? And that's so big right now, obviously. So again, do you have a computer with a camera? Do you have the necessities to work from home and make those things happen? Again, some of the basics, some of the things that seem like common sense, but it's just here and there. Some people have them, some people don't. So I would say those are some of the biggest things that you can do to kind of get a jump start on finding employment.
Good. Yeah, it's so funny. I always joke that common sense isn't so common these days. And so, ensuring that people do those things that are basic necessities in terms of getting an actual offer are really critical and really important. So to digress from that just a tad, one of the things, and we've touched on this slightly already, one of the things that I find really interesting is that there is so much negativity and so much disaster that has really happened within the business world and at large. But I always find it interesting that there are sectors that are doing better than others, or businesses that are doing better than others. Obviously, we've touched on how technology, high-tech companies are in that realm. If you're looking for a job, what kind of employers should you really be targeting who are succeeding in the marketplace, that are actively hiring right now? I mean, where should people be looking? Where should they try to go to find resources to say, hey, I can actually, these people are actually interested in hiring someone like myself? Where should candidates be really, really looking for those opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great question. And some of the trends that I've seen, especially early on, one of the biggest sectors was data. And data has been so big for so long, but now data is so critical and everyone's looking for top tier data analysts, data intelligence, just understanding, hey, how is this pandemic affecting our business in these short 3 months? And how is it going to, having those forecasting skills of how is it going to, affect us in 2 to 5, 10 years, this, whatever it ends up being 12, 24-month time span of, disaster, how it's going to affect our business, what can we do to prevent some of those pitfalls. So I would say data is a big one. A company that focuses on data or data visualization, like Tableau, who I know was acquired, but companies like that are specialized in sort of some of those fields. Cybersecurity is so big right now. There's a lot of stuff out there. I got a new watch, a Garmin watch, and I just got it like 2 weeks ago, and they have this awesome mobile app, and it totally shut down for like.
Oh no.
And I just saw a report that they had some massive ransomware. And so a lot of companies are just talking about that cybersecurity, and with everybody working remotely, everyone's so much more vulnerable, because if now people are going in through a VPN, they're remoting in. Some people aren't even on a secured portal. It's so important that companies are keeping up on their security. So cybersecurity before the pandemic was already at a 0.0% unemployment rate, and now I think it might be like 1%. I mean, it's so low. So any company that focuses on cybersecurity, data analytics, those are your big ones. E-commerce obviously is huge right now. Obviously
Sure.
Amazon exploding. But even some of our smaller e-commerce clients are doing really well right now, and those are the ones that are hiring. So it's very interesting. You know, the companies that some of the companies that you thought would still, you know, do well during this time are not doing well, and some of the companies that you just didn't really think about, they're exploding right now. So yeah, again, I would say e-commerce, anything to do with data, big data, data intelligence, and cybersecurity. Those are really the three big industries I see booming right now.
Okay.
Gaming also, I think, is a big one. You know, gaming's been, you know, blowing up with everybody staying at home. A lot of people are into gaming, so that seems like it's been big. Some of our gaming clients have started to see some increase as well.
Awesome. That's really helpful for people, because it seems like one of the things that seems challenging is that there's a lot of companies that have job offers that are, or postings that are live, but they're on a freeze, or they're not really hiring for that position. And so it sort of instills this false hope, because you look out there and you see all this opportunity, but there's really not much opportunity to be had. So I think it's helping people say, these are the different companies that you should be looking if they're in the data or in the cybersecurity space, because they have real live offers that are, you know, they're looking for new employees. So I think that's super valuable. Looking into the future, where do you see us in the next 6 months? Where do you see hiring? Where do you see employment? Do you see any changes in terms of the trends where it's, you know, e-commerce and data, but it may also be XYZ? Where do you see us going in the next 6 months and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I'm more on the optimist side. I see us bouncing back, you know, pretty strong. Maybe not quite as strong as we were before the pandemic, but I do see the economy. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, I'm 25 years old, 24 years old, so I never actually really lived through consciously a major recession. I mean, '08, I was 13, 14 years old, so it didn't really impact me. So I mean, I might not be the best person to answer this question, but I just, with what I've seen over the past 2 years and how strong our economy was prior to the pandemic, I don't see it going into a massive spiral downwards. You know, there may be some other hits in some, you know, industries, and I know companies are still filing for bankruptcy, which is just awful and terrible and sad. But I do see the economy staying level, and I do see it bouncing back. It's hard to imagine it completely diving with how advanced technology is and how advanced we are as human beings to be capable of pushing through, you know, persevering. But again, you know, some companies are still going to totally disappear, and there's going to be some companies that, you know, completely skyrocket and do great. So it's just a matter of, can those companies transition? Can they, you know, make those necessary changes to help expand their business, or are they gonna suffer? It's just who's going to make those changes. So I see it, you know, staying a little stagnant for the next, I would say, maybe 4, 5, 6 months, and then I would say 2021 is going to be a great year for the employment market. It's going to really explode. You know, I think people are going to have to change, right? Hospitality is going to suffer for a long time, and so those people might need to make some career changes. You know, so it's just again a matter of who's willing to put in the work to change, because it's the hardest thing to do is to change and to, you know, totally uproot your life and what you've known to do, and go into something completely new. So that's kind of where I see in the next 6 to 12 months.
That's awesome. Well, Nolan, I super, you know, I so much appreciate the time that you've taken with me this morning. I've learned a lot. I think everybody's going to get a lot out of your insights and your expertise. I always like to ask, when, you know, we're signing off, where can people, you know, check out what you're doing, you know, what your social channels are, or what jobs you actively hiring for, so if people are in the market, they can hopefully engage with you and maybe put something together there. If you want to leave that for everybody, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a LinkedIn addict, so hit me up on LinkedIn. That's the best place to connect with me. I think I only have like 2,000 connections, and you can have like 30,000. So I got lots of room. Yeah, that's the best place to look. You know, our job board is updated on an hourly basis. So if you just go to rht.com and find our job board, you can see all the jobs there. You know, we got 4 recruiters on our team, so some of them are posted by other recruiters, but you can always reach out to me and I can direct you to the right person if they're the one that's working on it.
Very cool. Well, thanks again, Nolan. This has been a lot of fun. Hopefully this is super informative for everybody. If you guys, want, please follow Nolan on LinkedIn. Please connect with him. We appreciate the support, and we look forward to seeing everybody on the next one. Thanks so much, Nolan.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler.
All righty. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.